Yeah, g'day everyone. Not quite 8 o'clock yet, so I'll give it a couple more minutes to get some more viewers on. Hopefully we get a few like we have in the last couple of weeks. We'll see. Hello, what are you doing? Hello. Hi everyone, while you're waiting, there's my dog saying g'day. Old JJ. Hey? He'll get up on his couch. Oh, it's unusual. Usually he'll get on his couch, not just sit there. Wants to be part of the episode this week by the looks of it. So say g'day to JJ before we start officially at 8. Don't know what he's looking for. There was a big bug walking around here. Maybe he's after that. But something's caught his attention, hasn't it, mate? Beautiful boy, hey? Let me do my episode now. Hey? Thanks, mate. All right. Yeah, still got a couple of minutes. So we'll just wait a few minutes for everyone else to give a chance to get on, and then we'll get started. 2 minutes to go. He's back. This is my German Shepherd JJ, for those who haven't seen him before. He usually sits on his couch. He seems to want to be involved a bit in this episode. So he's a beautiful boy, very smart, nearly 4, turns 4 in September. So, but he normally jumps up in his bed. He's coming back. He normally jumps up on his favourite couch, but tonight he seems to want to be a part of it, don't you, mate? Hey? He's a good boy. Like all German Shepherds, they're good dogs. He chased an intruder off here the other day, I'm pretty sure. Got out the front gate, barking his head off up the road. Came back on command, which was good, but I think he put the fear of God up somebody because you could hear his bark going, getting less as he went up the road. Thankfully, he came back when he got called, but he would definitely sounded like he was pursuing someone. It was either an intruder or a cat, one of the two, or a possum, but the possums usually just run up the tree. So I got a funny feeling it was an intruder. So always have a German Shepherd when you live in Melbourne. So, okay, we've just gone past 8, so time to get the Eureka Conservative up and running. First up, just forgive me, you might see a bit of rail. I meant to fix it since last week for some reason. What do they call it? The covering over my light came off during a storm the other day, and I've been meaning to get another one, but I get this annoying, I don't know whether you guys get it much at your end, but this annoying ray of light that comes down the middle of the screen. So forgive me for that, and I'll try and make sure I've got that fixed before next Tuesday. We'll do the best we can going through it, because an important episode tonight. We've had 2 weeks of having some fantastic guests on this show. giving us their opinion and sharing their thoughts and having some good discussions. Tonight we won't be doing that. Tonight, the reason we're not going to be doing that is we've got a big announcement on our policy front. So for those who regularly follow, you know, every Tuesday we come out with a policy. We're starting to build that up nicely. Tonight, for a Conservative, I'm coming out with a pretty radical policy that I think could shake the cages of Conservatives themselves. So, you know, for the entirety of our time as a federation, we've been a constitutional monarchy. I actually believe the monarchy died when Queen Elizabeth did. To be blunt, I think we've got an idiot for a king now, which was always a concern going back a while for me, that when he would take over as the King of the Commonwealth. And he hasn't done anything to dissipate my fears about him. He's, as far as I'm concerned, a WEF globalist puppet. He pushes the renewable scam. He pushes net zero. He's supposed to be the leader of the Anglican Church in England, but this week he's making a big announcement opening, what do they call them? Mosques, Islamic schools, all that sort of thing. And he's preaching how, you know, you've got to, which is fine. That should be the Prime Minister's job, not the King's job. His job is to be the head of the Anglican Church and the Christian faith in England. But he seems to be pushing the Islamic faith more than he does the Christian faith. So I think he's a total letdown as a monarch. I like the idea of having a monarchy because it gave a stable government, I believe, and a good system, especially where it is. But, you know, life moves on. And I don't see William being much better because he's been, not his fault, he's been raised in a household or a castle, whatever you call them, a bit different household to what we've done. But Charles has made sure he's been around people like David Attenborough, so where he is inundated with these woke ideals and all sorts of things. So as much as one way I'm an old traditionalist, I love all the pomp and ceremony of the monarchy. I think that's fantastic. But, you know, we can create our own pomp and ceremony, and I'm not too phased whether we've got King Charles as our figurehead or an Aussie figurehead. So tonight I'm going to be put forward an argument for different reasons. That's part of it, as to why, as a Conservative, I think we should become a republic. And there's bigger arguments than just about King Charles. You know, if Australia was in a great position and King Charles was over the other side of the world doing all these things, I wouldn't worry too much. But there's more important reasons than just the king himself that I think we should be becoming a monarchy, and I want to outline that. So to have a guest in while I'm going through all of this would be a bit difficult. So feel free to send through any questions you might have. Happy to share them. Would be good if actually, again, because it's just me, I can get people to tell me that they can, the mic and the vision is all okay at your end, if someone can message me on that. And yeah, we'll get into it. I'm pretty confident every time we get more viewers going up as we're doing. Sorry, these are just reading glasses. So when I'm back like this, I can't see anything, but when I need to read numbers, I need to put the glasses on. So yeah, that's why the glasses come on and off a lot. So just forgive me for that. So yeah, so the policy we're announcing today, and it'll need a lot more added to it, but this is just the brief part, like all our policies are at the moment, is we are going to be looking to put forward a policy for Australia to become a republic. So I'll go through those reasons in a minute. Part of it's to do with the monarchy. A big part of it, but will lead in before I show the charts, is that we've got so many problems in this country, but whether it's about land rights for Indigenous and them locking land away, about the energy grid and the renewable madness, our education system, the amount of bureaucracy we've got, the amount of layers of government that we have, how you change that, all the work you would have to do. I'll go through this in a minute when I put the policy up. What's the best way to change that quickly? Well, if we keep the same system of government, you know, whether you want to call it deep state or just bureaucracy in government, there are people within our bureaucracies that will fight you all the way. They're career public servants and I'm not talking the politicians here, I'm talking in the career public servants, that will try to attempt to sabotage change because it's going to blow up what they're doing. So if you've got a centre-right government, it wants to be able to go in there and reduce, if it's true to its values, it wants small government. Small government means small bureaucracy. To try and cut government bureaucracies at the moment, and don't forget, in the government bureaucracies, you have a heavy trade union movement, which is kind of funny because they're not really trade union, the public sector union, whatever you want to call them. They will fight you every step of the way. You would need to have a long run of centre-right government with a determination to go to that small government principles, and I'm talking probably 20 years to get this turned around. Because don't forget, in our system, you can say we want to go, you can go to an election and say we're going to reduce public bureaucracy by 50%. Well, that's just the start of your battle. You've got to first win the election, and not only win the election, you've got to get the majority in the Senate so you can pass the legislation through that you would like. So if you don't get that, sorry, just got an ambulance with lights flashing in front of my place. If you don't get that, you're then going to have everything you want changed diluted, or you're going to have to call a double dissolution election. So with no guarantee you'd stay in there. So, that is one of the things that that can complicate things. So, when you do have that sort of situation, so for example, most centre-right governments can win a majority in the lower house, but they're going to find a roadblock in the upper house. So they all normally, because they don't want to give up power, will negotiate what they want to put through. So that dilutes what we're trying to change. So it might take you 4, 5, 6 elections to get all the changes through that you want. So if we do that, we could be in an awful lot of trouble as a country, especially with our deficits. With the taxation, they're talking about it already, about raising taxation. Why are they talking about raising taxation? Because they've added layers of bureaucracy on and they can't afford it. So if they can't afford it, it's either you make cuts, which you're not going to do, or you raise taxation. So us plebs are all paying for it again. So there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues in our policy platform, for example, by reducing from 3 levels of government to 2, restricting bureaucracies to a certain amount of ministries, having fixed terms for bureaucrats, just like we should have for politicians. So an awful bunch of those that we don't have, putting a Bill of Rights into our constitution. You might have to put up, 4 or 5 referendums just to get those changes through. So rather than do all that, the theory that we've got is take the mantle off the ALP, take the mantle off the left, and because they're the ones, we're going to get a republic sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. We're going to get, if we keep going the way we're going, our flag's going to get changed. Probably the name of the major cities will be, go to Indigenous names, and we will get a republic. But it's what sort of republic we want. So my argument would be that, sorry, I keep saying a lot. Excuse me for that. My idea is that we should take the mantle, take it away from the left, and push a republic from a centre-right perspective. So small government, freedom of speech, Bill of Rights, reduce bureaucratic and political wages. I mean, I just read a ridiculous report this week, for example, where Albanese, through his entire political career, has cost us $54 million. And just to pay him and all his security and his trips and everything in the last, since he became Prime Minister, has cost the country $7 million. So out of that $54 to $60 million, I mean, what value have we got back for Anthony Albanese? I would argue not much at all. Unless you're a member of the CFMEU or some other trade union, you really haven't got a lot back on what we're doing. So the money we've spent for his career. Now multiply that by the nearly 200, politicians we've just got sworn in today in Canberra, if you watched any of that nonsense. So the quickest and easiest way, I think, to get where this country's got to go is for the centre-right to grab the idea of republic. Basically, we tear the place down and we start again. So that constitution you would put in place to replace what we've currently got would legitimately start the whole process over again. We go back to 1901 and we replace the constitution we had because it's been used and abused, and we replace it with another one that can incorporate things like a Bill of Rights, recall elections, all that sort of thing, term limits, limits on bureaucracy, and make sure that the power is given back to the people and taken away from the politicians. So that is what we're going to be going over. So that's a quick preamble on to what we're going to announce. I'll just, glasses times again, I'll just get up on the screen our policy. We've actually got 2 lots that we're going to be doing. So I'll just get into that and share it with you. Hold on a minute, guys. So here we go from, this is on our policy page. So if we have a look here, what I've done with this policy page, because it's going to get bigger, there's smaller images. If you click on the images, you'll go here. So for example, there is, and this comes under our pillars of nationalism and governance, an Australian Republic, part 1. So just to go through each point, after the Queen Elizabeth's death, the monarchy is no longer fit for purpose for Australian national purposes. King Charles is a WEF globalist puppet, infatuated with things such as climate change, net zero, and making Islamic immigration credible. Attempting to change what needs changing within our current constitutional structures and systems and restraints would be problematic and face decades of sabotage and opposition, not just from politicians. You'll get opposition, for example, from the Indigenous crowd, from bureaucrats, all sorts of things, unions. You would face a decades-long fight. Rather than face a decades-long fight, let's go for the knockout in round 1. Such a change would need a 2-decade running government of centre-right persuasion with the determination to make such changes. So just on that point alone, can you see any centre-right group that would have that sort of determination? Certainly not the Liberal Party or the LNP at the moment. So rather than a long, arduous fight with no guarantee of success, we believe it would be better to tear the entire thing down and start again. And a change to an Australian Republic could ensure this could happen. Now, I'm no constitutional lawyer, but I'm pretty confident you could, once you change your constitution, like one thing I have done is run a few sports association, and to amend a few things, you amend your constitution and you come in with a new one. So once you change your constitution, you have the ability to change your laws. So that's the basic, simple thing. Happy to have more grassroots feedback on this, but that's certainly the goal, to tear it down and start again, bring in the new constitution, sell the bloody thing, win the vote, and keep pushing this thing until you do win the vote. If Conservatives don't embrace a republic, then the APL and all their woke mates will eventually force one upon us. Far better it for to be a Conservative-led push. So any republic needs to mimic as closely as possible the best aspects of our current constitutional monarchy, which has served our country so well. So there's certainly going to be a lot in the constitutional monarchy side of things that would fight this as well. But I think you could swing them a little bit as long as you kept true as close as we could to the constitutional monarchy system. We'll just have an Australian head of state. At the same time, we would need to remove and address the areas within our current constitutional structure that holds this nation back. So we've already talked about those couple of things in the last couple of episodes. For example, removing local government and passing that on to administrators, putting term limits in, restricting governments to how many bureaucracies they can have. And if they do put in one bureaucracy, they've got to get rid of another one. It's a bit like legislation. You bring in new legislation, you should have to remove things. It creates a new space that we can be going into. There's things here that we wouldn't have thought of. So you'll see in the next part. So this is the biggest policy we've announced so far, and it's broad, but we've got to put, again, meat to its bones. So there's 2 parts to it. The second part deals a little bit more with how we want it to do. Our head of state it has to be decided by a public vote, not from behind closed doors arranged by faceless men and women and power brokers. And the last time they put a constitution up, it failed because it didn't give the public the vote on the head of state. And it was going to be our politicians who would decide, like they do with a governor at the moment, who would be a head of state. We cannot have that sort of basically what would be corruption in deciding a head of state. A new constitution must include a Bill of Rights and especially enshrine everybody's right to freedom of speech. Now, there's a bunch of other freedoms you put in there, like in America with their First, Second, Third, Fourth Amendments. We can certainly do that and steal a lot of their ideas, but with the first one with cab off the rank has to be a freedom of speech. And that way we don't have the e-safety commission or the e-safety commissioner trying to impede on what we can watch, can't watch, what we can say, what we can't say. And that obviously then engages in open debate for everybody, an open opinion and the ability to share that opinion. So that would be just one of the many bills of rights, parts of that Bill of Rights that we need to have. A new constitution must have a preamble that recognises both our Indigenous, yes, I said it, our Indigenous, and our colonial past that built this nation. Now, when I say Indigenous, I just think Tony Abbott had this idea for a preamble for the Indigenous in our Constitution. But if you've been watching our past episodes, we've also talked about getting rid of things like welcome to country and land rights, all that sort of thing, and opening it up. So, but we should acknowledge the Indigenous culture and the history of this nation. I've got no issue with that. But just as importantly, we need to acknowledge our colonial past. I'll go further into that in a minute. A new constitution must ensure each Australian citizen is as recognised as any other and no demographic is given advantages over any other as we currently have. A new constitution must recognise and establish that our nation came about and was built up on Western principles, especially those of the British Empire that colonised this continent way back then. A new constitution, so that goes on top of the preamble and consolidates our Western culture, and especially that of our British culture. A new constitution, and this will cause a bit of controversy, a new constitution must recognise that this country is a nation built on Christian principles and embrace the Christian faith as our national faith. Now, under the Christian faith, it recognises people's right to live the way they want, however they want. And those people have the right to believe or not believe, and it's after we pass away that we'll be answerable to our God. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't say, you have to be a certain way like you would have in the Islamic faith or encourage violence against another community. You can be of another faith, but by having the Christian faith embedded as our national faith, we can avoid all these culture wars that we're currently in, where you've got Islamic people coming in to try. And the problem is if you become an atheist group, you leave a vacuum for other faiths to come in. That's exactly what a few of the Islamic groups are trying to do now. So, you can pick and choose. You can be a bunch of atheists and leave the door open for other groups, or we can say, no, we're a Christian nation. You don't necessarily have to be a Christian, but you do have to understand Christian principles, and that's what we built this country on, and we need to get back to that. So that's something we'd definitely push in a new constitution. A new constitution must embed within it accountabilities and responsibilities for our governments, our politicians, and any bureaucracies. And again, I'm not an expert in this, but there is too much wastage on it. I'm sure that people smarter than me can come up with proposals where there can be accountability for politicians that overspend and underdeliver or are corrupt in their behaviour. And I'm talking jail terms here, just like company directors would face if they deal in nefarious or corrupt activities when they're conducting their business. Politicians and bureaucrats should face the same repercussions. A new constitution must be framed to ensure government is kept out of people's lives as much as possible. Now, you can't keep them out entirely, but we've got way too much government in our lives now. So we have to frame any constitution to protect the individual from oppressive government, and also important to keep government bureaucracies to a minimum size as possible. They're just blowing out ridiculously at the moment. That is a big part of our debt. So it's something we need to be able to attack, and a new constitution, I believe, could do that. And again, controversial some, I don't think controversial with many of you guys, the enshrining of our current national flag as our national flag for the new republic forevermore. So that's just a start. There's a bunch more to come. I'm sure we'll get feedback on this. and some ideas. I'm hoping that's what will happen. And as we get those ideas, we'll add them onto this. Last week, we put up structures about voting. So this week, we just excuse me while I get all that down. Get my ugly mug back into it. So if you've got any comments, send them through. We'd love to get a few comments on that. But last week, you would have read a little bit, if you're on social media for any length of time, about we've now got Monique Ryan trying to follow the Labor movement in England and reduce the voting age. So we put something the last week up about voting in governments. So we'll, for example, adapt that where we raise the voting age. In my opinion, should be 25. So something we missed out, forgot to put on that. So we'll adapt that just with the constitution proposals there. Or any of the policy proposals we put up, we will look to amend them as we go forward. And hopefully, like we said all along, by the middle of next year, we'll have a pretty comprehensive, it's building already, set of policy platforms that we can take to conservative-minded politicians or people that we suspect could be conservative-minded and say, listen, this is what we want. This is what we want to see Australia become. And even if they implement just 30% of it, we're well on our way to be turning the country into a better place. So there's a method to the madness. There's a bit of a strategy behind it. Once we've got a few policies up, we'll be inviting Liberal Party politicians, especially to come on to the podcast, and we'll be questioning them pretty hard. So we've had a couple of guests, but we do want to get some politicians on here, and we want to ask them some hard questions about where they stand and what they're prepared to stand for, so we can all get a better feel of who we're supporting moving forward. So I think right from episode 1, personally, I've got no ambitions to go into Parliament after, if you watch the nonsense they go through today, it just makes your eyes roll in your head. It's just, actually, I don't understand the attraction of people wanting to go there. So I like my politics. I like following it. I know the impact it has on us, but why you would want to throw yourself into that cesspit and deal with some of those people is beyond me. We've all probably got a bit better things to do with our lives. So there we have it. At the Eureka Conservative, the most radical so far policy announcement we've got is for Australia to become a republic, so we can push the reset button basically, and take the best bits out of what we've done over our history as a country, as a nation since 1901, and take the best bits, get rid of the bad bits, and put in some other bits that will complement it, and give us a better constitution, give us a better structure for governance, give us a better structure for elections, and make sure that what we have moving forward reflects. It's very hard to say. It reflects the voices of the people. The reason it's hard, because you can never reflect the entirety of your population, because you're never going to get, if you get a 40% first preference vote, you're doing very, very well. That's an outstanding result. So what does that mean? You might have 60% of the nation against you. So you're never going to keep everyone happy, but you've got to get to a point where you can get a majority, and then the rest, while they might oppose it, they will be just content to get on with their lives, which is what we used to have in this country. So now not so much. So we've definitely got to be able to change it and change Australia back before it's too late, towards a more positive direction. And it's just my belief, and people are free to dispute this, argue it with me, whatever they want to do, that I could be just going totally the wrong direction, but I don't think I am. I think your alternative is to try and fight this through the current restraints and structures of our current constitution, of our current political and bureaucratic structure, and I think you're in for a world of pain. So you can take this policy platform, put it to the public. You've got to win the argument for that republic, but it does give you a chance to reframe it all. And there we go. Sorry for saying. I hate it when I hear people doing a podcast going all the time, and here I am doing it. So I'll try and get myself better at that. So I'll try not to say so much. So yeah, that is our radical policy platform. So as you can see from that policy page, go to theconservative.com.au, and then under politics, look for the Eureka Conservative policy platform, which is in the drop-down menu, and have a read through all of it. So it's building up nicely. There's obviously a lot more to come. If we keep announcing a policy a week, within a year we'll have 52 different policy platforms to take forward. And we'll have more than that, because some weeks we're going to, like we did a week ago, we're going to have 2 policy announcements to make on the same night. So, and I'm sure if we get more and more people coming on board, they will give us some feedback on what they think we should be putting forward, which we'll take on board. Won't say we'll take everything, obviously, but we'll certainly take on board what you've got. We'll give it a good hearing. Sorry, guys, I've got this big bug walking up behind my screen. Quite annoying. Every one of those nights. So we'll take that on board. And if we think it does complement our policy platform, we'll put it in a part and we'll give you a shout out on the program. So any feedback like that would be greatly appreciated. And look, if you want to, like this, there's been an open invite. If you want to come on the program, not a lot of people do. You know, we've approached quite a lot and they're quite happy to sit behind their keyboards, which is fine. Don't want to put a public face out there or anything, which I totally can understand. I had reservations myself. But if you do want to come on and just have a chat, no harm can be done. I haven't had any deep state threats yet. No one knocking on my door from the police or, you know, undercover police saying, Bob, why are you spreading this conservative bullshit? You know, what are you doing? I'm sure if we keep going the way we're going, that may happen one day. But we'll see how we go. So that's it for that. If, like I said, you got any questions, chat, please send them through. We did have a bit of chat last week, but it was a bit of nonsense. So it'd be nice to get a few new ones. I do want to also go over a couple of other things. So I'll get these up. Sorry, I've just got to find them. I don't know how many of you saw the goings on with the swearing into Parliament. I watched the ABC coverage because they're the only ones who do it. So I had it on the background while I was doing a bit of work today. And I have to say, Patricia Carvelis and David Spears just did my head in. It was very much a, what would you call it? An ALP propaganda arm today, Patricia Carvelis especially. But they're, for the want of a better word, they're just such wankers, seriously. I've never seen anybody carry on like Patricia Carvelis or Spears carries on. And, you know, she's on her Indigenous trip again. She's all right in with the Indigenous industry. I'm just waiting for her to announce she's part, like they all do these days. I don't know what country, but if those kids are Indigenous, I did make a comment that in the summer, if I walk my dog out for an hour in the summer, I would probably be a bit more Indigenous than what they would be. So, yeah, it is all a little bit strange at the moment. Sorry, guys, I'm still knocking around. I just got to get a trying to open this up. I'm still getting used to this little thing. Here we go. So now I've got it. There's a very important night that is coming up that I'm putting on here. So as you can see there, it is the Conservative Pub Nights. Now, this is something we're doing that we've had on the plan for quite a while. We want to get people out and meet face-to-face rather than being behind a keyboard. It's going to be on Thursday, September the 4th at the Hobson's Pub in Melrose Street in Sandringham. It'll start at 7 o'clock. And what we're looking to do is for an hour at 7, everyone can get it, like it says on there, a palm and a pot night. It is on Thursday nights at this pub. It's a great old pub. There I go. I can't lose my train of thought. I sound like Joe Biden. It's a great traditional old pub. There's no pokies in there. It's got a big fireplace. They have music sometimes going on, a fantastic bar, and it has an upstairs area, which is where we'll go, and delicious food, great beer. The beer there is fantastic. So, you know, it should be a really good night. So but we'll start at 7. Get people there at 7 who want to come along, and between 7 and 8, people can have people can have a meal, a drink, get to know each other, and then at 8 o'clock, we're going to make a presentation and having a Q&A and just explain what we're trying to do. So we hope this is the first of a number of pub nights over the next 12 months that we will have across, to begin with, the eastern suburbs and southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, and try and recruit people to this conservative cause that we want to build. We're looking for everyone. We're looking for men, women, but we would like to engage with the younger ones a little bit as well, because it's their future that we're trying to secure. So if you can make a note of it, there should be a better one. I'll see if I can get it up, and then you can take a screen print of it if I can get it up. I know I had it. I'll see if I can find it. Maybe I can't find it. Just bear with me as I go through this, everyone. I've really got to get more. Premium. Get onto the media. Here we go. Media studio. Sorry, guys. Just give me a tick. I'll get one up that should have. Here we go. I'll see if I can share that one there. Replace that. Library. Here we go. So if you take a screen print of that, gives you the date, gives you the time. Thursday, September 24th. Hobson's Hotel, 1921 Melrose Street, Sandringham. If you can't do that, just get onto Twitter, get onto my account. It's on my feed, and I'll put it up most days each week. And yeah, boy, what we do, I ask people, if you're coming along and you'll see it on the feed, just book yourself into it. If you go to theconservative.com.au and look under events, there's a link there. If you could book, you don't have to pay anything to book, but if you just put down your name and we know exactly how many people were coming, then we can cater for it a little bit. If we get 10 people, great. If we get 20 people, great. If we get 100 people, we know, well, okay, we might have we just want to make sure that we get everyone into the pub. So it's not a big pub. Don't know its capacity. Won't worry about that until we see the numbers that we're coming up, but it will be a very good night, and we can discuss all sorts of things, for example, like the Republic, so and any other policy announcements we have. Should be a fun night. Nothing better than get together in front of a fire with the beer in a great pub and enjoying each other's company. So if you've got time on that night, we're giving everyone a lot of notice. Get along and we'll go from there. Another thing you should be aware of, and I'll get rid of this now, stop screen sharing, is we have sent, for a lot of you that do follow me, we're sending out a bunch of things on DMs. So in advance, I apologize if you don't like us using DMs. But, we're at a point where this country, we need to be doing some things that we haven't done in the past. So we are putting out stuff there, and we need to, if we want to keep going the way we're going, it explains how we're structuring this. So we formed the Eureka Conservative under as a company. Bizarrely, it's a company name called BNBA Basketball Proprietary Limited. And the reason it's basketball, that's our main business. Underneath that, we have two companies, what we're doing here at the Eureka Conservative, and also a local newspaper that we publish for local businesses, community groups, and try and get their stories out there, support them so they can get through some difficult times, called the Community Forum. So there's a lot of good we do. But there's also potential to generate a lot of turnover and a lot of profit. So we're actually, instead of asking for donations, we're actually looking for people who would like to invest in the company. So it's a different way of going out about it. We're not a non-profit. We are a proprietary limited company. And if you know of anybody, you can make an investment from $100 to as many dollars as you like. If you want to come in with 25 grand, we've we're budgeting for something between 50 and 100,000. And that will then ensure that the company starts generating its own turnover, can make its own profit, and you get a dividend back. You got shares in what we're doing. You get a stake in the company, can have a say if you buy enough shares at an AGM. So it'll actually really hopefully grow and go forward. So off that conservative webpage that we've got, we've also got a page, for example, I'll share that. I'm still confused with my thing. I need a younger guy who can be my production manager on these things. That's what I need. If you know anyone out there, let me know. I'll just share that page now. So this is our page we've got on our website. So you can see up the top here with the menu. No, you can't see up the top there with the menu because that page doesn't have it. So it's the conservative.com.au, and this is our page there. It's just a share investment offer. So we're not expecting everyone to do it, but we do want to spread the word. And it helps us with a number of things. It explains it all here. I won't go through it all with you tonight, but you can certainly just click by here and you can actually take advantage of a share offer, like I said, from as little as 100 to as much as things. So if, for example, there's a kids playing basketball, you can just sign up for our newsletter that we'll be sending out. There's a more informative page once you click this button. It's just taking us to there now. So this is the purchase officer and explains what we're doing. So that's our main company name. That's the online newspaper we do to support the local community, parishes, local businesses, sports groups. And then obviously there's everything we're doing here through the Conservative website and this Eureka Conservative podcast. So, and the other part is obviously the live event. So there's 4 initiatives that we're trying to get done to try and promote the conservative message. But all of this costs money. For example, just in the basketball for the kids, that cost us, $100 share would cover a 90-minute training session through a council court hire. So little things like that. But on the flip side, if we can get enough kids in and families to invest in their sport, we can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So that can then get put back into this push for the conservative momentum we're trying to do. So if you get it in your DM, have a good read. Feel free to get in contact with me. You can get in contact with me through my email off the website, which is on here. I'll try and share that again. Sorry. I'll just give you a look on the normal website, which is the thing which just got the menu up on there. So that's back on the, oh God, now I'm getting confused. Get out of that. No, we don't want that. Where am I? Here. So as you can see up here, home, about us, contact. If you go to that contact page, you might want to, instead of DMing me, because the DMs will be a bit difficult, because at the moment I've got about 9,500 followers and I've got a bit of a bot going where it's sending a message to your DM box. So I may see it, or I'm looking at them, but you're probably better off sending me an email. If you like, I had Barry give me a call the other day. We had a good long conversation for about an hour. So if you want to give me a call, feel free. You just might need to leave a message, because I don't answer people's numbers if I don't know them, because, as you would have seen, you get a bunch of people trying to sell you stuff you don't really care about. So either that or send me a text to my mobile, and then I can put your name in my phone, and then when you ring through, I can answer. But probably the best thing is to send me an email. So that's my email there. And you can get that all off the Conservative website, which is the conservative.com.au, which is pretty straightforward to remember. So that's all of it there. So, so that's something you're going to get in your DMs. Again, for those who hate DMs, I apologize in advance, but we've got a country to save, so hopefully you can forgive me for that. And we've got something here that we want to be building. And as you can see from a lot of all that, from tonight, we're being pretty ambitious in what we're trying to put out there as a conservative platform. So I normally argued against a republic, for example, but I just think we're at a time we need so much done, and the quickest way to get to that point is through an Australian republic from the centre-right perspective. I think I think it's inevitable that it comes, but it would be far better to come from the centre-right of politics and the left and the Greens. If the Greens and ALP ever get a republic up, and I can't remember who it was, someone like Bob Hawker said that if an Australian republic's ever going to get up, it's got to come from the centre-right of politics. The left won't get it up because people don't trust them, you know. So I do think it would be a hell of a fight, because some of those things I've put in there, the left would argue against strenuously. But I think, you know, the problem with the Liberals at the moment, they pick a fight that they think the polling groups and the focus groups tell them they can win. They don't pick a fight because it's what you should be fighting for, and you've got to convince people to come across your side. So, I mean, if they took the Trump example, I think Trump does that beautifully. He stands by what he thinks. He doesn't care how popular or not popular it is. He puts it out there. You know, most experts would say, Donald, you're crazy. He goes straight out there and, you know, he will go with it. He'll back his gut, and then he'll win people across. That's why he's sitting in the White House, and that's why Susan Ley and the Liberals are starting Parliament tomorrow in question time with, 30 representatives. So yeah, they're not going to have a good time in this current Parliament. It'll be interesting. I'm now into general chat. Sorry, guys. It'll be interesting tomorrow for Susan Ley. I think, to be fair, I don't hold out hope she's going to be great, especially she's got that Maria, I can't say her name, she's from Serbia, Konovic or whatever her name is, one of the most vile people on the planet. But she's one of her assistant minister or assistant shadow minister to support the opposition leader. I can't remember her title, but I mean, if you've got her to help you out, you're probably not going to go very far. So, but I do think, to be fair, everyone's got to give her a chance. I know everyone's pounding on her at the moment. I don't think she'll do a good job, but I'm prepared to give her a chance and let her surprise me. You know, hopefully they will. There's a bit of talk coming out of the Liberals about opposing net zero. That's all it's been so far. Barnaby, Matt Canavan, Alex Antic, all these guys saying they should dump net zero. Well, I still don't understand why you got back in bed with the moderates then. So they need to be going a bit harder on that subject and a bunch of others. So the fact that they're embracing welcome the country again, Dutton was on the right road, I think, in trying to restrict that. He didn't come out and say he wanted to ban it. I would like to see a politician come out and say, let's just get rid of it entirely. We don't need it. We're one people. We're not multiple bunches of peoples. And like we said last week, I think that's coming up more and more often. I watched a debate this week about multiculturalism in the UK and how it's laying the groundwork, because don't forget, they're ahead of us, how it's landing potentially the groundwork for a civil war in the United Kingdom. And if you listen to it, I'm pretty sure I've shared it on my Twitter feed. I'll share it again. The guy there, he's a reasonable guy. He's an academic. He didn't want to go on this podcast. It's with Constantine. I can't remember his first name. And he made some really valid points. He wasn't really keen to go on this podcast because he didn't want to make his face a public face, which I totally get because a lot of people don't. And he is talking against Islam. So to get on a podcast and talk against that, you do take a risk. But basically, he's saying multiculturalism and the mass immigration and the rise of the Islamic groups within the UK. At some stage, he's saying the majority, the indigenous majority, are going to say enough, and they're going to push back. And what he's saying, it just needs the one incident. I think they had their incidents when those poor girls got slaughtered by that arsehole. But you know, it's obviously got to be a greater incident than that, which is kind of bizarre. I do wonder sometimes, you know, whether we've got it in us anymore. There's my boy. We're in Melbourne. It's wet and windy, and he hates the wind, my dog. You could hear the wind up here, and he's bolted downstairs. So that's quite funny. Here he comes again. If you can see, here he is. So he's got to come to Dad because He's got the security in his old man, so needs a bit of a pat. So yeah, whether I just wonder. I mean, to me, and I'm sure to many of you, you can just see where this train's going. If we keep allowing the mass immigration, if we keep making housing unaffordable, especially for our young ones, if the cost of living keeps going the way it is, if we keep allowing a growing Islamic community, and look, I know a lot of good Islamic people, but they've got far more radicals in their group than most other demographic groups in our society. If you keep doing that, and you, for example, that march they had around St. Pat's Cathedral the other weekend. Now, that was one of their holy days and marches. Did they really need to surround the largest cathedral, the largest Christian cathedral in Australia to conduct that ceremony? Of course they didn't. It was provocative. And they're all going to say, oh, it was just a religious ceremony. We're just observing this holy day and all that. That's fine. If a bunch of Christians got around your mosque and did something similar, there'd be outrage. Everyone would be called a bigot or a racist or something like that. So, there's got to be a bit more of a balance in what we're doing. And otherwise, we're facing exactly what the UK is going to be facing. We'll just go to there a few years later. So hopefully by some of the proposals we make, so if you put a referendum up to change our constitution, that's sort of a peaceful revolution. And I'd much rather our country go through a peaceful revolution than a violent one. And it should be a way for people to jump on board. So you're still going to have some courage because the left's going to come for you. They're going to try and silence you. They'll use whatever powers they've got to try and silence you. They're putting those powers in now. So people have sort of got to start standing up, which is, again, the point of our pub nights that I just talked about. With the pub nights, if people can come together, talk to younger ones, bring them along, get them there so we can talk to them, have the debates, and win them over to what we're doing, which we can, then, maybe we can organise, our own marches, our own events, our own whatever. So this is a very first start, a step towards our own opposition to where this country is going and to push back against it and maybe give a few conservative politicians, because there are conservative politicians in our parliament, to have a bit more courage. They've got to know they've got courage because, be honest, if you're a conservative politician right now and you put your head up, like, for example, Pauline Hanson has, God bless her, the media come for you, the bureaucracy comes for you, your opposition politicians come for you. You've got to have a bit of courage because you're going to cop it when you do make a stand. So we've got to help give them the courage to stand up for these right things. So anyway, so I've been babbling on a bit. I've got no comments, guys, so I'm going to move on to our little bit of news of the week. So just excuse me while I share our screen again. So I'm still getting over the, where is it? Just got to share my X. Here we go. Good. These are all my DMs. This is my DM box. So as you can see, fed up with socialist government, fed up. That's going out to 9,500 followers at the moment. So that's going to take 30 days, but you'll eventually get a message from me in regards to that. So let's see how we're going. I'm going to go to more. Still working my way around this bookmarks. I don't know whether you know, with your bookmarks, you can actually, I found this really interesting. You can actually put them into folders. So I didn't realize that till the other day. Then I spent the whole weekend putting all my stuff in. So there's fitness ones, politics ones, Eureka Conservatives is stuff I want to go through here. Faith-based ones, business ones, motivation. I've got one there. I love the animal videos. Young kid being an idiot today. I thought that was interesting. I haven't had a chance to look at this one. This looks fascinating. I can't stand this guy, but a number of these right-leaning politicians are getting into being possessed by demons. Tucker Carlson was one. I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but it seems like James O'Keefe, I don't know whether you follow him, he exposes left-leaning people, but he's saying now he's been attacked by a demonic force, which is kind of frightening. But anyway, Whether it's true or not, we'll have to see. So some of the stories of the week. So just going over these. Welcome to Victoria. Jacinta Allen, this woman, I mean, how she can be leading in the polls, I don't know. I think Brad Batten, the more exposure you get, the closer he gets to an election, if he can hang in there, I think he'll be a good opposition leader because he's saying a lot of the right things. He's just not getting any clean air on the things he's saying. But this woman here, I mean, she reminds me so much of a younger version of Joan Kerner. And she talked about, this guy's got his hand cut off, so he doesn't have a hand that he used to. So buy a machete. They didn't say what culture they were from, the attackers, but we can all guess. And it was all over a phone. And, but we've banned them anyway and all this sort of thing. I'll just play it for a bit. I mean, if you were the wife or the mother or the daughter or son of this person that just had his arm cut off for a mobile phone, what would you think of this response?
Just in terms of the Saturday, last night's attack was bad, but the Saturday night attack was a group of men approaching someone to rob his phone, basically, and they hacked his arm with what appears to have been a machete. That's a pretty horrific escalation in crime, right?
Yeah.
For a phone.
It is, and that is why the ban on machetes is just so important, but it's part of that overall work that we're doing to give police more powers. We're strengthening the bail settings, the toughest bail laws in the country. We have Australia's first ban on machetes. We've got more police on our streets. But this attack that we saw on the weekend was just horrific, and if I can pause for a moment and extend my thoughts to the victim and their family, who was a horrific experience, and I wish our thoughts should be with them as they go through that recovery.
Just in terms of the Saturday.
Would that, I don't know, those comments from your Premier, if you're part of that family, would they console you or they just make you angrier? Those bail laws she's talking about, there was a story in the paper today of a kid over here on a refugee visa who's been let out on bail 55 times since he was 11. 55 times. The judge threw her hands up in the air and gave up on giving him any community orders or anything because he just ignores them. Well, if you're only here on a refugee visa, surely you've been out on bail 55 times for crimes you've committed, then surely you should be sent back to your country of origin. And she's there talking about bail law. She's talking about a machete ban. Yeah, I think that's a total waste of time. The criminals have got their machetes. They'll get them from the black market if they need them, if they want them. But even if that could be effective, the ban doesn't come into effect till 1st of September. So people have just been out there buying them until the ban comes into effect. So they'll stock up on them and away we go. So not solving a thing. Everything she says, how they're going to solve it, is just a total lie. Everything this woman says is a lie. She is definitely the female version of Albo, except the worst version. So it's crazy. This is the, if you want to have a look at it, look at trigonometry. This is the guy I was telling you about heading towards a civil war. Now, trigonometry is great. They have some great podcasts. I highly recommend this one. This guy was very, very good. And he explained how the UK, unless things change dramatically, it is headed to a civil war. And I don't think that's a surprise to a lot of us, but I think that's where it's going. He's just basically saying it just needs one tinderbox. That's John Ruddock about his favourite guy in Malay. Something about the Crusades. This is not my Eureka Conservative, but I'm just checking through. I accidentally sometimes put some other stuff. These are just ones I want to. Interesting. Explosive US says no to the WHO. Sweeping to 2024 health reforms. I know we're all falling into the trap of asking Grok everything. I haven't followed this closely enough, but it does concern me that we could be signing off our control over our health responses in a pandemic to the WHO. The Yanks are definitely not going for it, but I did an answer on Grok, and it seemed harmless enough, but a lot of people reckon Grok leans left when you ask him questions. I'm not too sure on that. Certainly something worth looking into a bit more, but bottom line, there's not much we can do. They've sold us all down that rabbit hole at the moment. I don't know what people thought of our illustrious leader in China, but her dress sense is just woeful. She's an attractive enough young lady. How she got hooked up with Elbow is beyond me, but her dress sense, I don't know whether you saw it, it's just woeful. I've got some relatives with bad dress sense, but my God. And his dress sense, that's our Prime Minister. He's in a rugby polo. He's showing his beer gut. And the interesting thing I find with these two, these are supposed to be an engaged couple. I don't see them in a warm embrace too often. There always seems to be a bit arm's length. I don't see them holding hands or arms around each other. I don't know whether it's just me, but I just find that a bit strange. I think many of us out there don't think this is a legitimate relationship, and I certainly don't. Who could fall in love with this guy, seriously? But credit to her. Good luck to her if she is, but I don't think it's legit. So this guy here, listen to him during the week, New Zealand's Associate Energy Minister, Shane Jones. You should take the time out to have a look at him. They're brick by brick. They're dismantling net zero. Oh, my God. Maybe if we're going to leave, maybe New Zealand is the place we go to. Here's what I was saying before about our republic and King Charles. Defender of all faith in a multi-faith Britain just said King Charles says it's more imperative than ever to understand the Muslim world. I'm not too sure about that. I think you do need to understand them. And in certain degrees, you need to respect them. But his first priority is to be the head of the Anglican Church, not the Muslim one. And it's not his responsibility to be looking after the citizenship. He does need to conduct ceremonies. He is a figurehead, head of government, but it's their prime minister and their government figureheads that need to be able to do that. There's another one in trigonometry, 5 things we need to do to save the UK economy. There were some really good proposals that we're going to be putting in. As a basketball coach, you steal a lot of opposition strategies. This guy had some really interesting thoughts on the UK income I think we could put into play for the Australian one. This was interesting. Everyone thought Trump's approval ranking would tank after thing.
Look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down, Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% were Republicans.
So a lot of the right-wing influences, and I've been banging on about them, so if I have, I apologise, but I don't think there's been much going on in Australian politics. It'll probably change now. They're all back in Parliament finally. But, the right-wing influences, they've lost me. Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Alex Jones. I don't know whether you know all these guys. Owen, can't even pronounce his name, Shooter. Nick Fuentes is just a racist piece of shit. There's a whole bunch of them that are on there that have been bagging and throwing Trump under the bus. There's our illustrious PM again in his polo. Does he look like an idiot or what? I mean, for all the Americans that are unhappy with Trump, I would trade him in a heartbeat every day of the week, twice on Sundays for this vlog. And there he is. You can look at that dress. I mean, look, I'll put my hand up. From time to time, I've had the old male booze, but look at this guy. That's our Prime Minister, and that's her dress sense. I mean, I've got better curtains here in my room right now that could make up a better dress than what she's wearing there. There is the man that should have been a thing. He was discussing Elbow. So Elbow had a lot of coverage on what we're going. And this is what I was saying to you before. Well done, Rob Smith. Anthony Albanese has been a federal member of Parliament for Grainler, I hope I'm saying that right, since March 2nd, 1996. In that time, he's received $9.78 million in salary since 96 and claimed $44.75 million in expenses since 1996, a combined total of $54 million. $44 million in expenses. Unbelievable. So, that's just one politician. And don't forget, the bulk of that time, he wasn't Prime Minister. So obviously expenses would blow up once you're prime minister. But if we have the majority of our politicians who are spending that, you've got nearly 200 politicians at federal level. Under that, you've got their bureaucracies and their staff. Under that, you've got the state level politicians. Little wonder this country is going bankrupt. And don't forget, Albo would go out on a golden handshake for his super when he retires. So this is something. I'm going to finish off here with a trip through the week. This guy, I don't know how many follow the American politics, but this guy here, I think, nails it on the center right. People, this is the guy, Owen Schroyer. He's such an idiot. Anyway, listen to this guy here. I don't know who he is, but I think he nails it on the head with what's going on with what they call the woke right and Trump at the moment.
What's the point of electing people if every time they do something that you don't understand, you turn on them and then you masquerade and wrap it in a fucking a blanket of virtue called holding them accountable? Do you think Donald Trump needs you to hold him accountable? Can we just all appreciate Donald Trump even running to save your scrawny ass was in itself an altruistic act? This is one of the most crazy things that people will say. He only did this to save your sorry, ungrateful fucking ass. He didn't do this for fame. He sure as fuck didn't do it for money. He did it because he's like, I've got to save these people. They have no idea how fucked they are if I don't run. I'm just stunned at how fucking stupid so many Americans have become. It's the saddest shit. How did you forget that he doesn't need this job? How did you forget that if there was ever anything against Donald Trump, Biden and his DOJ would have buried him with it? How did you already forget that? How is it possible to be that fucking stupid? You have to start with with what you absolutely know. What fact, what you absolutely know. They were going to put Trump in prison for fucking life. Fact, they tried to kill him. Fact, he doesn't need this job for fame or money. Fact, he already was a president once and accomplished way more than most people, and he didn't need to come back and do this. Fact, he's at the end of his life. There is no next chapter for him. He's 80 years old. Those are the facts. When you look at those facts, you arrive at a single conclusion. He's doing it because he thinks he can help make your life better and save America. So if you're questioning that now based on the fact that you don't like what's being disclosed, you're a fucking idiot. You either trust the people that you fucking vetted and elected, or you don't. And if you don't, fuck off, you're retarded.
Excuse the French and all of that, but I think he certainly reflects my thinking a little bit on that. I think we all forget very quickly what Trump went through and the noise from the woke right, people like I said, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, Candace Owens. If you do follow any of the American politics, and I think it's a bit of a heads up, if we ever do get a leader here, we've just got to remember how they get there. And then no one's perfect. Trump is certainly not perfect, but he's better than anything else on there. And you know, I don't know, and none of us know. At the end of the day, none of us know what's going on in the background with the Epstein files or any of that. But what I do know is Tulsi Gabbard, how do you pronounce that? For example, she released all that information on the Russia hoax and all the fraud under Obama's administration to bring down Trump. She also released today all the files on the Martin Luther King assassination, what evidence they had there. They not long ago released all the JFK stuff, and Trump now, he has done it belatedly, but he's given the okay to release all the stuff on the Epstein stuff. I think that man's gone through enough to, as the guy said, to have earned the trust of those people who supported him, to trust in what he's got to say. Now, I found it all a bit strange as well. I won't lie. And if there is legitimate child abuse, whatever is going on, it needs to come out. But, you know, Trump has said to everyone it's a hoax. Now, is he covering his own ass? I don't know. We don't know. But the other thing is all these people making all the noise about him and what his motivation is behind all that. They don't know what all the evidence is. They haven't seen any of the stuff with the Department of Justice or, you know, for all we know, it could be a big nothing burger. Who knows? We can all have all the theories and whatever, but what I do trust is what I've seen and heard with my own eyes for the last 10 years and how they wanted to take this guy out. And what that guy said there, those facts, 100% spot on. He doesn't need to be doing this. He would have a much easier life if he didn't do it. He put himself out there. They tried to take him out through prison. They tried to take him out through assassinations. But in 6 months, he's done more in changing a country than I've just about seen in a lifetime. So, and I've got no doubt he'll do more even going forward. So, and he's not just leading America out of this. Whoever's leading the USA is leading the entire West out of its past. We need in Australia Trump to be successful because it'll give the inspiration and motivation for more conservative-minded people here to take on board some of the harder debates. So anyway, I've instigated that this week with the constitutional one. So yes, I'm a conservative. Yes, I've come to terms that we don't need the monarchy anymore. Not under King Charles, not under King William, not under Harry, not under any of them. It's time to cut the umbilical cord, not because of them, no, partly because of them, but to change the direction Australia's going and to put in a constitution that we think can address a whole bunch of issues, whether it's energy provision, whether it's corruption in politics, whether it's layers of government, whether it's Bill of Rights for freedom and other things, freedom of speech, and other things, whether it's to redress the Indigenous treaties that are going on and make sure we've got equality instead of multiculturalism. It's to reestablish our Western values and the Christian values that this country was originally built on. I think that can all be achieved through a proper constitution instigated by the centre right. And the only way you do that is by becoming a republic. Like I said before, take the very best out of what we've got in a constitutional monarchy, put in the very best that's going to protect us from all that, and steal as many good ideas from other countries' constitutions to make sure we've got the best constitution on the planet. And most importantly, people like you and me get our voices heard, but we're also protected from oppressive government and nefarious movements within our society as well, because trust me, there's a bunch of them out there. So I've babbled on now for an hour. I haven't got any chats, guys. I'm waiting to get inundated with chats. I'm going to love that day. I'm a bit disappointed. Mr. F, if he's still, I don't know whether he still watches, but he bombarded me one night with some chats and comments. I'm not too sure whether it's working. So I'll have to investigate that. I'll get someone to come on board and throw a few chat questions my way. I just want to make sure it's working. So I haven't got any yet. So anyway, that's more than enough from me, guys. Don't want to hold you up too long, especially when it's only me and we don't have any guests on. When we do have guests on, I do like giving them their say. So those episodes will probably go longer, just a heads up. So when we do have a guest in, I'm not going to be a person that talks over my guest. I want them to get their say out and what they think. And then both you and I can make assessments on, with what they're doing. I think the last three guests in Melinda, Celine and Mick have been awesome. Their contributions were great. And I look forward to having those three on again, but also getting further guests with, you can be like-minded like us conservatives. I have no issue with the libertarian coming on here. I've invited a couple. They're resisting at the moment. We'll see where that goes. Hopefully they have the courage to come on board and put their side up, and I'll put my side up, and we'll see where it goes. But that'll happen again next week. I just thought this one was way too important to have a guest on as we're talking. We can comment more on that next week. In the meantime, if you've got any ideas, proposals, anything you think should be policy, any ideas on what we put forward off that policy page or what we put forward tonight about the Republic, feel free to put them through. You can say, Bob, you got rocks in your head. Bob, you're an idiot. Or put a bit more French in there. I don't really care. Or you can suggest amendments or think, just give us some encouragement. You're on the right track, Bob. Wholly support you, which a lot of people have done. Remember, keep an eye out for those DMs. Over the next 30 days, you're going to get them. And keep an eye out for, not an eye out for, put it in your diaries, that very first pub night we're going to have. We're hoping to do a pub night every 6 weeks. So our first one's going to be in Sandringham, and then we're going to expand out from there. So put it in your diaries. It would be great to get 20, 30, 40 people there along to that night and get some real momentum behind what we're trying to achieve here through the Eureka Conservative. All right, everyone, time to say good night. Got an early morning tomorrow. I will see you all next Tuesday, 8 o'clock on the Eureka Conservative. Good night for now. Bye.